Hi guys. It's been 3 years since I've had a new phone, and the time has come to go shopping again. So I want to talk to you all about what I'm looking for in a phone, which phones I think I'm going to get here in the second half of 2020. So here we go. Hi everybody, I am Levi Sauerbrei, the Nerd Butler, and in my content I talk about tips, tricks, tools, tutorials, resources, and recommendations to help you do more with the technology you have and help you make smart buying decisions about the technology you're going to get. So, about 3 years ago, I think it was October of 2017 or so, I convinced my in-house chief financial officer to let me spend almost $1,000 on a phone, which, if you remember in 2017, was a lot of money. And I did that on the promise that I would keep that phone for at least 3 years. That phone was the Pixel 2 XL. So I went ahead and put the money down, got the phone. The phone has held up remarkably well. One of the things Google promised about the Pixel 2 was that it would get at least 3 years of software support, so 3 new versions of Android. 3 years have gone by. The Pixel 2 XL has been a great phone. I have really enjoyed it. The camera is exceptional, as most of the Pixel cameras are. It's just been a really pleasant experience. But was it worth $1,000? So here we are 3 years later. There's lots of $1,000 phones. There's some $1,200 phones. There's some $1,500 phones. There's even, if you like folding screens and other sort of crazy things, some $2,000 phones out there. I don't think I'm going to do that again. Let's talk about the criteria for picking a phone in the second half of 2020. The first criteria is I don't care about 5G. 5G coverage out in the wild is not good enough yet. Verizon and AT&T are trying to do shortwave 5G, which doesn't travel very well, and the coverage is really non-existent unless you are in a major metropolitan area standing in just the right spot. Now, T-Mobile's working on a 5G network that is going to cover a lot of the country. It's slower speeds than what AT&T and Verizon are doing, but more to the point, there aren't that many 5G phones out there yet, and the 5G coverage isn't all the way installed yet. I'm probably going to keep this next phone 2 to 3 years. By then, the 5G networks will be up and running and working really well, and I'll look for a phone with 5G in it. Right now, if I get a phone that is 5G capable, I'm going to pay a premium for that. So I don't care if the new phone has 5G or not. The second question is, do I really need a flagship phone? So what do we mean by flagship phone? Flagship is the top of the line. It's the best Samsung. It's the best Google phone. It's the best iPhone. A flagship phone has all the bells and whistles. It usually has the best camera. It often has the best battery life. 3 years ago, a flagship phone cost you between maybe $700 and $800. A few of them were brushing up into $900, maybe touching $1,000. Now, flagship phones can very easily set you back $1,200 or more. Why do you need a flagship phone? Well, if you're a nerd and you just want the latest and greatest, you want a flagship phone because it's cool. There is a cool factor to it. If you're someone who plays a lot of really high intensity, high resource driven games on your phone, you might probably want a flagship phone because they have the fastest processors in them. They have more memory. I don't do any of those things. So I don't think I'm going to get a flagship phone this time, which is good because pretty much only the flagships have 5G in them right now. Since I don't need 5G and I don't need a flagship phone, what am I looking at? Well, something that's been missing for the last couple of years, except for some Motorola phones, is a phone that is not the low-end cheap phone and isn't a flagship. That mid-range kind of disappeared for a couple of years. They're not flagships. They're not the best of the best. They don't have the best anything, but they have good enough hardware and good enough cameras, good enough software to be a really solid phone for people for several years at a time. But other than Motorola, there weren't really anybody else making that level of phone. Luckily, in 2020, we've seen kind of the rebirth of that mid-range, that middle tier of devices, even from Apple, which is a big deal. So the iPhone SE is an iPhone. It does almost everything that an iPhone does, and it costs about $500 as opposed to the $900, $1,000, $1,100, $1,200 you might spend for a top-of-the-line brand new iPhone. The iPhone SE is their budget version. And the trade-off is It has fewer cameras. It has less memory. The processor isn't quite as fast, but for a lot of people, you're not going to notice the difference. So if you're an iPhone user, the iPhone SE is an excellent choice for you if you're on a bit of a budget. If you want to stick with the Google Pixel, which I do, I really like those phones. They came out with the Pixel 4, and now they're about to come out with the Pixel 4a. Pre-orders are available, so we know this is going to happen. The Pixel 4a is a $350 phone. With a trade-in of my old Pixel 2, I can get $50 off. Now it's a $300 phone. So it's 1/3 the cost of the top of the line. But is it as good as the top of the line? Well, of course not. It's 1/3 the cost. However, I think it is more than 1/3 as good. The Pixel 4a has one lens, but it's got all of Google's artificial intelligence and machine learning and all of Google's software power behind it. So it's a very quality camera. I can take good pictures, which is important to me. I can do pretty good videos, which is important to me. And the phone itself is probably going to run faster than my 3-year-old Pixel 2. And it's going to get 3 more years of updates. So for $350 or $300 after my trade-in, 1/3 of what I paid for this 3 years later, I'm going to get a phone that's at least as good as what I've got, and it's going to last me another 3 years. This is why I'm so excited about shopping for a phone right now. So we talked about the iPhone SE. We talked about the Pixel 4a. OnePlus has kind of gone back to its roots. They still have their flagship models that cost a bunch, but now they have the OnePlus Nord. Odd name, cool phone. The OnePlus Nord is another $400 and $450 phone. We now have 3 major players, Apple, OnePlus, and Google, all making phones in this really affordable $300 to $500 price range. All of these phones are perfectly acceptable devices that are going to last you for multiple years. I'm really excited about this mid-tier of phones that's made a comeback in 2020. If you have a little time, if you have a little money to spend, and if you want more value from the money you're spending on your phone, I would suggest taking a little time shopping around. Check out the Pixel 4a. Look at the iPhone SE. Look at the OnePlus Nord and keep an eye out on OnePlus to see when that is going to come to America. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please subscribe to the channel. Get more content like this. Check me out at nerdbutler.com. And the most impactful thing you can do for me if you enjoyed this content is share it with somebody you think could use this information as well. I hope you all have a great day. If you got any tech questions, check me out at nerdbutler.com. Fill out that contact form. Send me a message. Find me on social media at nerdbutler. And I will talk to you guys again very soon.